just to put it out there that, you know, this talking through ATMs for some people is delicious and illuminating and clarifying, and for other people it is hell. And then there's things in between. So we'll try and mix it up a little bit and try different ways of deconstructing the lesson, but there will be this, you know, more cognitive element to deconstructing the lesson in this week, and more or less next week, obviously, and you've been doing it last week. So for those of you who find it hell, I'm sorry. So, you know, it's just how it's. So the first year, the people who like just experiencing it in their bodies, you know, you've had your go. This year it's a bit more cognitive. However, now you get to be back in your body and you can be a student, and I won't go meta. So, lie and notice. Notice in particular the scan, let's say the scan du jour is in the contact on the floor, and you understand now, understanding that lesson, why we're using the contact with the floor as a feedback mechanism for what your resting tonus is. So Narayan's not in the room to hear that, but that's why that scan is kind of there for that lesson, because when you're lying on your front and your flexors are lengthening, more of you will be contacting the floor. When you lie on your front and your extensors are lengthening, more of you will lie on more, you have more contact on the floor. So the contact with the floor is the quantitative kind of measure of resting tone. So what is that like now? What's your state of openness lying on your back? So if you have, you know, generally a lot more tone in your system, you know, like clench your jaw, clench your fingers, clench your toes, clench your buttocks, clench everything. What happens? Bits of you lift off the floor, right? And then you let go and you feel more contact. That's all I'm saying. How much your feet turn out is a sign, you know, an indication to a point about the kind of tonus around your hip joints. It's also an indication of whether you've, you know, target up your hip joints being a ballet dancer. You know, it's a genetic thing and all sorts of other things. That's one way that we use it. The depth of the breathing gives you an idea about the sort of resting tonus in your tummy wall, in your gut wall. Are those thin sheet-like muscles in your belly wall able to lengthen for abdominal breathing, so diaphragmatic breathing? So they're all signs that you use when you're observing people doing ATM, and you observe them in yourself as a student, that give you clues about people's status. Status. What are you saying, Melbourne? Who cares? Melbourne. And my Melbourne friends still keep me that same dance. Perfectly the normal way to say dance. What else did you do? France. Yeah, doing. Great. Okay. Notice again, you know, the height of the lumbar spine in particular would be something good to kind of check in now with a bit of baseline information, which will give you an idea of the amount of tonus in the small of the back, the amount of work my darling friend Margaret May would say, the liveliness. So you could, if you don't like the word tonus, you could substitute for liveliness in the muscle. Good, and slowly roll over, come up to standing. Stand off your mat, so stand on the carpet so that the floor is fairly firm. And if you feel comfortable, close your eyes, but if you don't feel comfortable with your eyes closed, keep them open. And begin to sway backwards and forwards a little bit. A little bit forward and a little bit backwards. And find in that sway, forwards and backwards, so where is your normal forwards and backwards? And keep your eyes open if you feel nervous. So if you're, where's your normal quiet standing? Is it more to the back or more to the front? Just notice that as you pass through the habitual and come back. So you're only swaying from the ankle. And so the whole of you, from the top of your head down to the ankle joint, stays in alignment. And you're just swaying from the ankle. So it's not like you're counterpoising and your bum goes forward and your head goes back. Swaying like a stick. So it's actually quite a small movement. So if you imagine it, it's the top of your head has the biggest pathway. That's the end of the lever. Make the movement quite exact. And breathe. And find the middle of that path of the forwards and backwards. So you go as far as you can forwards and backwards. And then you slowly find the middle. So you kind of oscillate, and it's a bit like the pendulum that doesn't keep getting, just slowly dampens until it settles in the middle. So where's that middle? And the middle might not be your habitual. So I think we talked about this in January last year. There has been a bit of a trend in Feldenkrais training to call this the neutral point, this kind of middle point, where you're neither forward nor backward. But I think we all agreed last year we want to call it equipoise, equitably poised. So we are neither forward nor backward. The you could also call it the Goldilocks position. Not too much and not too little, not too forward and not too back. So where is that? This quiet point. Now stay in that quiet point and find now that the axis of rotation, instead of being your ankle joint, you're going to lift your head up and down as if you're looking up towards the sky and down towards the ground, so that your eyes, your head goes forward and it goes back, but turning on, on top of your neck. So you're dropping your chin towards your chest and then your chin away from your chest. So your eyes, again, you can do this with your eyes open. This makes you feel a bit weird. And again, find this idea where your chin is neither up nor down, where it's equitably poised, which means that the top of your neck is neither flexed nor extended. So you explore the range. And at some point in that range, you will pass through your habitual, which may or may not be that point of equipoise. And stay in that point. When you found that point of equipoise, stay there and systematically gather information about what that feels like. So where is your chin in relation to your chest? Where are your ears in relation to your shoulders? Where is the back of your head? Sorry about that, I'm trying to find a quiet spot. Where is the back of your head in relation to, let's say C7, or between the shoulder blades? And develop some kind of kinesthetic memory for where that is. Because I'll keep reminding you, come back to that, make sure, and I'll keep saying it during this series of lessons, come back to the position where your head is in equipoise. Okay? That is your task. Can you find this position again and again? How do you create some signposts that will guide you back to this position so that you don't have to stand up and go through this rigmarole? So that's the deal. That's the setup. Beautiful. Okay. And come back down to the floor. And rest for a moment on your back. Just for a moment as a reward. And by way of checking in with yourself. Is there any influence of that little exploration, that kind of setting up? Getting to know thyself. And with your head lying on the floor, check in with those signposts about, is your head near or not near that position of equipoise? In terms of, you know, whatever you use for signposts, like the distance of the chin from the chest, or the ears from the shoulder, or the back of the head from C7, for example. And slowly roll up to sitting and sit with your legs crossed. And have your hands forward, leaning on your hands, so your hands a little bit behind you. Your fingers are pointing forward. Now, decide for yourself how much weight you want to commit to those hands, because of course if you commit a lot of your weight to your arms, they're going to get sore. So there's a little bit of an internal feedback loop there. If your arms are getting sore, then commit less weight to them, so that they then just become simply that's resting on the floor more by your side, and there's not so much weight on them. So they're there to take weight if need be, but they're not, you know what I mean? You're not committed to them. Yeah? Okay. Now very slowly, find that neutral position with your head in this position. Just make sure for yourself, legs crossed either way, whichever one you like in front of your hands. You know I'm going to get you to squat later. So, you know, don't get wedded to anyone, because it's like changing partners. Don't get used to one partner. Not in life, in the room. Okay. So find your neutral. Equipoise, sorry, my notes have got neutral. Don't like it. Well, I can live with it, but let's go equipoise. Much more elegant word. Now, maintaining that, so you found this sort of neutral, and fake it that this feels nice in this equipoise, even though it's not the habitual. And so your eyes are probably, almost definitely, resting very gently on the horizon if they're open. If they're not, they're in that direction. So they're, you know, on a very, they're neither raised nor lowered. Right? They're just resting. They're in equipoise in your head. Now, there's a very interesting thing that's happened in the room. Can you feel that the energy in the room has really deepened? There's something, I'm just saying this, there's something very, very, as ATM teachers, just notice that when people really pay attention to finding these states, it's very, very sophisticated. Anyway, come back to the lesson. Slowly, slowly start to lean backwards as if you're going to lower yourself back onto your right elbow. Now, go slowly. So it's just the beginning of the movement and come back. The beginning of the movement plus a little bit more and come back. We can really track the sequence of action. this idea that, you know, your fingers are facing forward and that your elbow will go, as you lean back and to the right, that your right elbow will bend, and it's like it's got a little, you're heading in the direction of the floor, but it doesn't have to get there. And as you do that, continue to notice. Obviously, you know, there's the arena of action. It might be that you're feeling the weight shift onto the right hand more, or the bending of the elbow. But what's happening in the belly? What's happening in the chest? What's happening in the shoulder? And now add in this constraint that your eyes are going to stay in that position of oriented to the horizon, that equipoise kind of position. So it's now no longer in relation to yourself. It's actually the relationship of your face to the external world. So how are you going to signpost that? So what I should see is this kind of your facial orientation is now not in relation to your own trunk. It's in relation to the environment. So how does that change quality of the movement? And if you're not sure, let it go and just let the head go with the sequence of going back onto your elbow, and then come back to that kind of intention where there's something on that low horizon, so that your eyes are neither looking up nor down, your head is neither tilting up nor down, nor twisting left or right. It's staying oriented to the front of the room, which in this case is where I am for all of you, and that you're going back in this asymmetrical way under the elbow and then coming back the same way. And you go as small as you need to in order to, with that maintenance of the orientation of the face. And change over the crossing of the leg and do a few more times on the right elbow. Don't worry, I haven't noticed which way was your habitual first way. So if you do a double shimmy, I don't know. I'm not that good. And continue to go a little bit back onto the right elbow with the legs crossed in this way. Now, in keeping your eyes oriented this way, do you also fixate your breath? Because I'm just here to tell you it doesn't help. But there is often this kind of link, this habit. When we think we have to maintain something, though, so we put in a constraint like this, or a requirement, that we will effort by holding our breath. Noticing not only the downward journey, but the coming back journey. That's it. And then change over, keep your legs like this and go a little bit towards the left elbow. And again, remember, it's just that small, what's the impulse? What's the thing? The first thing that tells you, I've initiated this movement. And then I'll remind you of this requirement that your head stays in this orientation that you've established as your initial position of equipoise. And now you want to maintain that facial orientation. Now, interestingly, you know, this is the hallmark, apparently. I'm not a sporty person, as you might recall. But good sports people, they don't take their eye off the ball. Doesn't matter what their body's doing underneath their eyes. They keep their eyes on the ball. That's what you're doing. But the ball is sort of out the front here. And your body is kind of moving underneath your eyes, but you're not letting your eyes stray from the ball. So they're kind of fixed, but we wouldn't use the word fixed, because then you'll fix everything and you'll hold, you know, you go rigid and you do this, that, and the other. So it's a very dynamic Keeping your gaze fixed is a very dynamic thing. In a sense, a contradiction. It's not a contradiction. And now rest. Do you need rest? Yeah, right on your back. Roll up to sitting again. Have your legs crossed in your habitual way, which is the best way. And in your own time, explore the relative ease or not of going to the down to the towards in the direction of the right elbow compared to the left elbow, with your legs like this, and then which is easiest, the right elbow or the left elbow with your legs crossed over. But in your own time, that's your mission. Is, you know, if you had, it could be as simple as which way could you do more of without getting tired? Which way do you like more? Which way feels more elegant? Which way can you breathe more easily? And always with this idea that your eyes stay on the horizon, your eyes are on the prize. So it might be that going down onto the left elbow feels easier with the left leg in front or the right leg in front. I'm not hazarding any guesses. So I did say I wasn't going to go meta, but because this is a lesson that I have not taught before, I don't have a class in me. I've only got my reality, what I find easier. So I'm not even going to hazard a guess about what other people are. You know, I've learned over time, not necessarily project my experience. Right? So you didn't ask me which way should it be. I can honestly say, I don't know. You know, and that would be the hallmark of a lesson that I'm not as familiar with, is that I am much more open-minded about the possibilities. My expectations have to be much more fluid. Good. Rest when you need to. And come back to sitting. That was a very small pause. Come on, you're not working that hard. It does get stuffy in here, so yes, feel free to. What was it? Has not anybody told Melbourne that this is summer? Actually, to be honest, to be fair to Melbourne, it's been doing this in Adelaide, so we get 1 or 2 stinker days, and it goes quite full again. Pretty weird. Brisbane, same old, same old. Yeah. Hot. Is it? Yeah. Okay, so have your legs crossed your habitual way, leaning on your right arm. And now lean just on your right arm. So, and again, it's up to you to take care of this arm. So if you put a lot of weight on it, this is your weight is your responsibility. And have your left arm just in your lap. And now do a few times going back onto your right elbow, in the direction of your right elbow, so be sustainable. What's it like without having the left arm there? Do that a few times. And again, with this idea that your eyes stay on the horizon. Your eyes stay on the prize. And now swap over, so your left arm is on the floor and your right arm is not there at all. And does that change them? The fingers are forward, really, yeah. So the elbow can bend back without hitting you. Does that make a difference or not? These are just questions that elicit information. Now have both hands again on the floor and go back straight. So both elbows bend. And can you do it in such a way that you don't increase the pressure on your hands? Your eyes stay on the horizon. And that when you come back up or come forward, you don't increase the pressure on your hands either. What has to happen in the middle of you? What will bring you forward if it's not your arms? So you might only go back a tiny bit. And the plane of your face stays oriented to the wall. So you could think about rolling, sort of going back in a clock kind of movement. Your rolling of the pelvis. And the hands are there as kind of outriggers. What happens after you bring your belly forward, bring you forward, belly button, hands over legs, see if that makes a difference. Breathing. And next time you go back, have your right arm there, and put your left arm on your throat, around the front of your throat, and sense if there's any tension there. And if there is, you don't go into that. So if you can keep your neck soft as you go back, so that you're not using the weight of your head to pull yourself forward. You're not using the weight of your head to lower yourself back. But your head is literally being carried by further down, lower down, the bigger muscles. So if you notice that there starts to be a grab, And you'll see this a lot when you start working with clients. I see it a lot, mostly people who've got neck pain. They use their head to initiate movement. So see if your head can literally just go along for the ride. It's free. It's free to be what it is, which is just the mobile receptor. You know, like the radar dish, it's just free to be moved by the engine underneath it. Talk over hands. And rest. Line your back and rest. And what is the influence of these variations on this shifting your weight forward and backwards, more to the right, more to the left, straight, and this constraint of keeping the plane of your face in the same orientation. Your head is being moved through space, but it's not changing its orientation, meaning that its foundation has to adjust, moving the foundation under this. So just like, you know, when they've got those satellite dishes pointing towards something in the heavens, because the Earth's moving under satellite dish, the satellite dish has to keep adjusting because its foundations are moving underneath it. The Earth's turning. That's news to you. Like that the news that the Earth's turning, not the sun turning around. Yeah. And tomorrow I'll break the bad news. It's not flat. The Earth isn't flat. I'm just pushing the boundaries this week. Even though your sense is that the floor is flat today. Okay, roll up to sitting, and a few more times sit with your legs crossed. And once again, check this going straight back. And now going back to the right elbow or the left elbow, and which leg likes to be in front for which elbow. If that's any clearer or less clear, you really don't care. That's still an answer. And the head, the eyes stay oriented to the horizon. And then go back symmetrically. The face stays vertical. And can you go back in such a way that the pressure under your hands doesn't change? Neither in the going back as you shift your weight backwards, nor in the coming forward. How do you keep your weight? on your butt, your eyes on the horizon, your arms stay quiet. Small movement, whatever, so long as you conform to those lines. And I mean, I haven't got pressure sensors in the floor, so I can't tell you if you're pushing with your hand. You have to feel it. How do you spread your attention to maintaining all these requirements? And find a way to lie on your back, knowing that you're going to roll up with this idea of rolling up via one of your elbows, sitting, and you're by seeking the horizon with your eyes. You think that through, and then find a way to do that as easily or as clumsily as you wish. You're going to be coming on your back with this idea that you come up via one of your elbows and with your face finding this vertical orientation. Breath holding. Yeah. I'll just get Zoran to come in and do 6 ATMs for breathing after class. Notice if there's any sort of jerky sort of things happening in the front of the neck or fixing. And remember, you're a work in progress. So this is a series of 5 lessons. So if you insist on being perfect now, the rest of the week is going to be so boring. So can you just take a bit of, take a few conundrums to yourself. Your eyes stay vertical, that plane of your face stays vertical. Beautiful. Okay, next time you're coming up to sitting, find a way to come up to standing. Maintaining this idea of the eyes on the prize, right? The eyes staying up fundamentally towards the front of the room, to this horizon. It doesn't matter what's happening underneath you, underneath the eyes. They're just there. Keep the face oriented. And in this position now, keep your face in this vertical orientation. Vertical, so your eyes are on the horizon, your face is vertical. And start swaying forwards and backwards. So you're just swaying at your ankles, but now your head does have to adjust a little bit, conform to the rest of you being the hip. Does that influence the sway? Well, what has to adjust? What's the kind of counterpoising movement that has to happen as you sway forward on your ankles? What has to adjust in those little joints underneath your skull that would keep the plane of your face parallel to the plane? Tiny little adjustments. So here's a metaphor that kind of helped me get the whole flavour of this aspect of the message today, which is, now that you walk, keeping your head on this vertical horizontal orientation, and have the image of a large cat or a bird of prey where the head stays focused, feed the food stream. So whichever way you walk, you're going to find a target in the room and keep your eyes on it no matter which way your body is going. If you've ever seen a big cat hunting or running, it doesn't matter whether its body is low or high, the head stays. And it's not rigid, it's not stiff, it's the most dynamic kind of, so you can't say fixated because it's so dynamic, but it's like this, the radar that is oriented to the stars and the earth shifting underneath it. It does not lose its orientation. It's locked onto that star. So find that and then start moving underneath, as it were. And nobody could ever call a big cat, stiff. It's just focused. And its whole being is organized around this kind of function. You all look like supermodels. So I think we have discovered the secret of the supermodel. Now you too don't have to get out of bed for less than $10,000 a day. Right? The eye is on the prize. All in the eye. It's quite amazing. If you just want to stop, you can't all stop and look at each other, because then you'll all stop and look at each other. But it's a very interesting thing to watch, right? This kind of organization. And you could go faster. Like that squeaky painting, when no matter where you are in the room, it's looking at you. Okay. Good. Now, to bring you back to Earth, Demi has an intention that if numbers permit, to run